Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Alert Factor. I am Nancy Allert, and here at the Alert Factor, we talk everything real estate. I am a licensed broker in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. My team is Nancy Alert and Associates, and I'm powered by Remax Allegiance. So, a few things. If you're looking to list your commercial, residential, investor properties, you can list it for free on real estate listings with an S dot info. Real estate listings dot info. So you can list your listings for free now. It has access to throughout the globe. Everyone can see them. So here on the Alert Factor, we talk about everything real estate. Whatever you want to talk about as it relates to real estate, we will touch on it. Okay. So if you want to talk about decorating, you want to talk about flipping, you want to talk about real estate investing, how to get started, you want to talk about multi units, buying your first home, buying a home, no money down, buying a home, no matter what your credit is. We discuss all of that every Wednesday from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And today we will be discussing the real estate market in the DC metro area and nationally as well. And we're going to touch some of the international as well. We're going to talk about some trends that are coming down the pike. That will be affecting realtors. It will be affecting sellers and buyers mainly. We're talking about where you should focus on whether you should buy single family, condos, townhouses. If you're an investor, what should you look at? Should you look at multi-units? Should you get involved in the Airbnb market? Today is a all-in real estate discussion. And for that all-in real estate discussion today, I have Miss Kathy Baumbush, real estate agent in Maryland and Virginia. And Kathy is with eXp Realty. Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
Hi, can
How
you
are
hear
you today?
me? I'm good.
Good, good, good. So, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you do what you do and where you do what you do.
So, as you said, I am licensed in Virginia and Maryland. I've had my Virginia license since 2001, and I think I started in Maryland around 2008. I am with eXp Realty. I was with Remax for about 16 years, but I switched over to eXp in November. And
That was missed you.
and yeah, and so I focus primarily on residential real estate, and I help first time home buyers and first time home sellers because people that have never sold their homes before, I like to help them walk through it and all of
Because it's
that.
a process.
It is a process. That is true.
And if you don't know, you don't understand, because what I find is there's always someone that thinks they know everything
Mhm.
about real estate, and you really don't know anything. You might have sold a house in Arizona, but now you're selling a house in the
Mhm.
DC metro area. It's totally different, totally different. So when people say, yeah, I've sold a house, so I know the process. No, you don't. And then as you go through and you really realize, oh, you don't really know. So what would you say when you meet with a first time seller, like they bought, this is the first home they bought,
Mhm.
um and now they're looking to sell it, so they've never gone through that process before. What do you what would you say is one or two of the main things you want them to be aware of?
Well, one of the first things that I think that they should be aware of is to understand what the current market is saying, whether or not it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, but basically set up the expectation for what they can expect to find in the market that day, that, in that time period. So I would be talking to sellers about something completely different if I were selling 6 months ago,
Mhm.
even 3 months ago, than I would be talking to them about right now because we're in the middle of a shift. We're starting to see price reductions. We're starting to see sellers even offer some closing cost credit. Those kinds of things are coming back. So I would set up the expectation that it is a changing market, and that the house is probably going to be on the market a little bit longer than it would have been even 2 or 3 months ago. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would talk to them about is whether or not they have to sell their property that they own now. If they're going to buy something new, if they have to do that first, or if you can go ahead and buy first before they sell. There's lots of programs out there that will turn you into a cash buyer, so that if you have, that way you can eliminate the sale of home contingency, for example.
See, this is why when I tell people, no, you don't want to use your girlfriend or your cousin or your auntie that just got their real estate license, not because you don't want to support them, but because this is one of the largest assets you have, right? And what you need is someone that knows the ins and the outs and will know what to tell you, how to protect you. Like, for example, most people might not know how to turn you into a cash buyer if you already own a home that you have to sell before you purchase, right? They're thinking, well, you have to sell it before you purchase so you can get a cash. No, that is creative. You can do that. And that's what you want, a creative agent that can show you creative options in how you can get from point A to point B. Like, there's all these subject twos everybody's talking to. And what I know them as was contract for deed and wraparounds. So now all of a sudden everybody's talking about subject twos and syndications as if it's something brand new to the market. But it's been here forever. But the point I was trying to make is you have to make sure you find yourself a knowledgeable agent. And time in market and honestly how many homes sold does not really mean you have the knowledge, right? It really doesn't mean that at all. You could have been in the market 50 years and you still don't know what you should know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you could be selling 50 homes plus a year and you still suck at real estate. But you just, I don't know, there's something you're doing that's working for you, good for you. But really, when it comes to repeat business, you're not getting that because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't know what you need to know to tell to this client. So you're helping that client now, later, and in the future, right? Or you're helping them, truly helping them acquire a property, sell a property, and make money. And what do you do when I sell this property and make money? Where do I go? What do I do with it? Right? So yeah, go ahead, sell your market. It's a great time. It's always a great time to sell a home. However, then what do I do now? If I'm down to my 65, 50, whatever, you're getting ready to retire, whatever. Now you sell your home, which is your largest asset. Then what do you do as a realtor? Do you just sell? And they said, oh, we're moving out of state or whatever. You just leave it alone? What do you do at that time? What advice would you give to a seller that says, I don't know what I want to do, but I do want to sell this 3-level home. I'm getting older. The stairs is too much. How do you help that person?
So what I would ask them first is, what is their goal? Are they wanting to retire completely? Are they going to do some sort of, are they going to go on to a next career? Are they going to do some sort of hybrid where they work a little bit and then travel the rest of the time? I would ask them what their goals are, because then it would be like, well, if I want to have some extra money to travel, for example, and I'm going to work a little bit, then I would say, why not just get a small condo, or rent an apartment for a year before you decide. Because the prices right now are still pretty high, and the demand is high because of the lack of inventory on the market. Everybody keeps talking about the lack of inventory is still there.
Right.
So it's definitely a challenge to figure out, where am I going to go after you sell your house? So that's why you have to really plan ahead. And I would say that anybody that's planning on doing that looks 6 months ahead in the market, because you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to find that property. And if you do find the property that you really like and you want to put an offer on it, you're going to have some competition. So it may not work out, right? So I would say to them that you put in priority order what it is that you'd like to do, whether you want to, if you want to just purchase again, then that's number one. And then, but you have to have a plan B and a plan C, even because it's really tough right now as a buyer to find what you want. And it's rare that you get the first house that you find, because
especially in this market, right? But we're in a shifting market. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk more about real estate.
All right.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to The Alert Factor. And I am Nancy Allert. And our guest today is Kathy Bombush. And we're talking about everything real estate. We were just talking about selling your first property and really some of the questions you should ask when you're choosing a realtor, especially when this is the first property you're selling. You need to really ask, how familiar are you with my area? So the person doesn't have to live in the area, right? They have to be familiar with the area that your home is in. They have to be able to do simple math to tell you what your property is worth and what it can sell for, and someone that is going to be honest with you and not tell you what you want to hear. I know a lot of people want to hear my house is worth $1 million. The neighbor sold her house for $1 million and mine is so much better. That's subjective, right? I mean, because half of the time it really isn't. But in your mind, it is. So my job as a realtor is to look at your home, see it on from a buyer's perspective. When I walk in, that's why when I walk into a home, the owners are always ready to show you through the property and point out all the fabulousness about the home. But the first thing I tell them is, can I look at it by myself? So I'm looking at it through my eyes, through a buyer's eyes, so I see what buyers are looking for. And then you can tell me about all the great things that made you choose this home or what you have done to the home and things like that. But right off the bat, you're not being polluted, lack of a better word, with everything that is coming from them. You're actually having a fresh look at, let me look at this property. Oh, okay, this accent wall is good. Or no, that needs to go. Not with them telling you, oh, this is so beautiful. My son did this, and then now you're all in, and you're, oh, that's so wonderful. This is his first paint job, and so now you're all in that and not really seeing. No, that's the wrong color for that. So you have to make sure that you are honest with your clients. I know some agents are afraid that they won't get the listing if they're 100% honest, but then now you have a listing you can't sell because it's overpriced or it needs to be painted, and you already told them it's fabulous as it is. So now when you go back to them and say, well, we need to reduce the price, what a happy conversation that's going to be.
So one of the things that I tell my sellers is, one of the first things I ask is, what do they think their house is worth, so that I know what starting point we're at.
Right. Where they are mentally.
Where they're at mentally, and what, sometimes they're pretty close, sometimes they're just way off. But that's where I start, so I can have a baseline. And then, of course, you have to visit the house before you can give them a price, because people will try to get a price from you over the phone. And it's like, I can take a shot in the dark and tell you a number, but I guarantee you that it's not going to be an accurate
number. Either it'll be too high or too low. And if it's too low, then I've already lost my shot at getting your listing, because you're like, you have no idea. Well, no, I have no idea because I haven't seen your property. I don't know what you've done.
Right. So two houses side by side that are exactly the same can be different, because one seller may have done some upgrades, one seller may have done just some painting, some may have added a complete addition on, and you won't know that just from looking at the property online at the public records. You wouldn't know that. So you have to visit the property and get an idea of what the price is in their mind. And then once you meet with them at the property, like you said, take a walk around just by yourself and have a look around. And then I think in today's market, you have to be able to do a calculation in your head, because this thing about, well, I'm going to take a look at it and then I'm going to get back to you, that doesn't really work anymore.
That was back in the day. That was
back in the days.
You looked, you write some notes. You said, well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to work some numbers and I'll get back to you and come back. By the time you get back and come back, they listed it with somebody else.
They listed it with someone else. Exactly. Yeah. So you have to be able to do those numbers pretty quickly. And of course, with today's technology, I mean, it's easy enough to do. You can get a
Most
ballpark.
numbers, right? But as a realtor, right, you're not a contractor, but you should
Mhm.
have some concept, some kind of
Mhm.
inclination about what it would cost, right? Bare bones to do a new bathroom, right?
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
I say bare bones, I mean it can always be more because you can
Mhm.
take it to the top of the
Mhm.
level of bling, right? So bare bones, if you're gonna do a full bath, is it gonna be $5,000 bare bones?
Mhm.
Is it gonna be $3,000? Or you can go all the way and have a 20,000 plus bathroom. That means you
Mhm.
are high end everything, right?
Right.
You're everything imported tile, imported this, blah blah blah. But bare bones, you should be able to say if
Right.
you did an additional bathroom or if you renovate your bathroom, this is what it would cost, and around this is what it will add to the value.
Mhm. And there are programs out there now. I know Curbio is one company that
Mhm.
does it. Uh, Listing Profit is another company that does it, where they will make the repairs for you and you pay them at settlement. And
How
so,
helpful has that been for you? Has that been helpful where, because there's some people that if they really did a little bit, they could get so much more money, but they didn't have the funds to do the repairs.
mhm. So it can work out quite well because if the seller does not have the funds to make the repairs, and of course, what's the catch, right? So there's a calculation that these companies do with the amount of equity in the property minus the amount that's the
Mhm.
equity and how much is owed and all of that and the percentage.
Mhm.
So it can work out very well because as long as you don't over renovate,
Mhm.
then you're sure to make a profit. And so,
Right.
and they won't take on a project that they
They're
don't.
not gonna make
Right.
money. And they make money if you're making money because you have to
Mhm.
be getting money back in order to pay them, right?
Right.
So it's a win-win situation. You have equity in the property. You don't have access to it, but they're gonna help you get more money by
Mhm.
doing the renovations, and then you pay them a settlement. And of course, they're charging you a percentage a
It's
little
about 10
higher.
or yeah, it's about 10 or 15%, more than what you would just pay a regular contractor. But A, is the contractor going to be available because they're backed up right now? And what are those prices going to be? Because lumber is expensive right now.
It is. So that's the thing. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the trends in the real estate market.
Next year I went back, I ended up winning and became I got the Marvin Sims Award, which is like the best diverse actor. And they called my name, and as I walked to the stage, white kids was throwing books at me. Real talk, right off the top of the balcony, like, because this black boy won.
And then finally, one day I was just cooking in the kitchen and she was like, "Mommy, so-and-so touched me on my private parts like this," And it was that moment where I had that moment where I told my mom, and my mom was the one that shut me down, and I had a choice, to make.
I shot back. But you can't claim self-defense when you got an illegal firearm and you're 16 years old.
I remember my brother right here, he was selling, he was doing this, but he got a break. He could have took that money and flipped it. He could have went back, Wake and Wire money, 17th episode. I could flip that.
Even on out there, I did not. He didn't pop the wire, but I went straight. Right. My bad. I'm moving on.
I was a single friend for 6.5 years, and I was going through my situationships. Y'all know the situationships, men. Then I found, just like for myself, again, oh girl, you still recovering from your childhood. What you about to do with a man right now?
I had an agent, some years after that, tell me that if you don't do nudity, you're not a real actress.
When did they get fired?
So let's
Should have got fired that way.
Everybody's laughing. They're like, oh my God. They go, okay, great. Are you SAG? I was like, nah, I'm Puerto Rican and black.
Everybody did that.
Like, we can pick up the sides right now and start going. I know this group that I'm with is about that. We're about that. Like, I'm about the work. You know what I mean? Like,
chasing Hollywood industry.
Who chasing?
So I saw Chasing Hollywood. I was like, yo, we gonna have to change that name and do something because niggas don't own chase.
I feel like we're living. That's the term that Hollywood uses.
It's not about just today, me, and blah, blah, blah. What we are doing is being documented. Our grandkids, our great-great-grandkids can see how we all walk, talk, sound, look in our prime. And, you know, something about that is very beautiful. And I think that is another element that kind of attracted me to it, is that it never dies. You never die through this art form.
I'm Charles Meriday, and I'm in the restaurant business. In my 20 years as a chef and restaurant owner, I've been able to work and eat in some of the great kitchens around the globe. There's a whole side of the restaurant that most people will never get to see. So now, I want to take you to the back of the house, into kitchens of some of the best chefs in the world. Along the way, I'll share some of my own tips and recipes so you can cook like a pro too. So join me in the back of the house for a whole new perspective on cooking and food. Order in. Roger. Serve it, please.
I'm glad that you came, please.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to The Alert Factor. I am Nancy Alert, and at The Alert Factor, we talk everything real estate. We were just talking about how to choose the right agent. Ask the questions that this is one of the biggest, largest investment you will have. So you have to make sure you choose the right agent to represent it. And there are places to negotiate and go for sales. Handling one of your largest assets is not where you do that. It's not where you do that. You want to get someone that has the experience, someone that, and it doesn't have to be someone that's been in the business for 500 years, but it has to be someone that can be creative. If you have an offer on your property, you're a seller, and something happened, things went south, you need to have someone that can think on their feet, someone that can jump in and say, you know what? Okay, so that's a problem. Here's the solution. I already have the solution for you, right? Here's the solution. This is what we can do. This is what we can do. You need someone to have choices for you. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Kathy?
That is true.
Okay.
That is true. I mean, there's so many things that, 90% of transactions go well and they go smoothly and things.
But those are not the ones you hear about.
Those aren't the ones you hear about, right? The ones that you hear about on Zillow or on any of those sites where people can make comments, you only hear the nightmare stories. So you either love your agent or you hate your agent, or you hate all realtors everywhere.
Everywhere in the world. But we have clients and they all love us, right? They love us.
Yes. So, and of course, that's because we've earned that trust and that respect because of our knowledge and what we have done for them. So in this way, if things do go sideways, and it's almost, and I'm saying this because I'm biased, but I'm saying this also because I know that it is almost never solely like the agent's fault that if something goes wrong. It's usually just something out of everyone's control. That's normally what it is.
That's normally what it is. However, there are those few times where the agents, as in plural, are the reason the transaction is not going the way it should go.
And that could be because they don't have enough knowledge to know what to do to save it, or
somebody just wants to be the king of the hill, right?
Right.
Right? You know that's true. Somebody just want to be totally in charge and doesn't want to listen to anybody else. And this is how I'm going to do it. And that's the wrong way. But you just want to do it that way. But just choose your realtors wisely. Now, I want to really dive into trends in real estate. What do you see that is going down in the real estate market right now that's going to affect all of us? It's going to affect the buyers. It's going to affect the sellers. It's going to affect realtors. And mainly, I'm talking about who's responsible for the buyer's agent commission.
So that's one of the things that we're kind of seeing now. So if anybody does not know, there was a lawsuit a couple of years ago that was brought on by a seller in Michigan. And I don't know exactly the details, but what ended up with that, the Justice Department was investigating the National Association of Realtors with regard to the commissions and how commissions were set up. Now, the way they generally work is that a seller sells their property and they pay the commission, they pay a certain fee to the listing buyer, to the listing broker, sorry. And as a part of that commission is used to pay the buyer's broker, and that's whatever the buyer and the buyer's broker have negotiated. But that commission has always 99% of the time has come from the seller side, and it's always been shared. I mean, not always, but like sometime in the 90s when buyer brokerage became a thing, that seller's commission was now being shared by a buyer's broker.
Right. So let me ask,
as things evolved, because of the percentage of that commission, it was almost shared 50-50 almost all the time. And so as things went along, buyer brokers started to tell the buyer that, don't worry, I'm working for you for free. The buyer doesn't pay anything.
The seller pays
the broker's commission. And 9 times out of 10, that's how it worked out, because it was a certain fee and 50% of that automatically went to the buyer's broker, because that's just how we did things. So what started to happen, well, there was 2 things. One was agents either weren't having that conversation in detail with their buyers, or they weren't having that conversation in detail with their sellers, because someone said, hey, wait a minute, why am I paying the buyer's broker?
Right. I believe it was the gentleman that filed the lawsuit in Michigan, because here's the thing. In 1996, when I became a realtor, that's around the time where buyer brokerage became a thing. And I remember saying to myself, because before, the realtor that wrote the offer and was representing the buyer was truly representing the seller, because there was no buyer brokerage. So they were the sub-agent of the seller. So they were really representing the seller. So
the buyer had no representation.
The buyer had no representation. You had someone that wrote the contract for you, but you had no representation.
Right.
And then in 1996 or around that time, when they said, okay, we're going to have buyer brokerage where we definitely have an agent that represents the interest of the buyer, which I don't know why it took so long for that to happen. However, I did know that when I remember saying, oh, and the seller is still paying the buyer agent commission? Interesting. Let's see how long that lasts for. Well, it lasts for a good while because I've been doing this for 26 years.
25, yeah.
And it lasts for a really long time. So here's my thing, though. Because those agents was running around crazily saying, oh, don't worry about it. We work for free. The seller pays us. Now we're in this mess. But I'm going to say this to all you realtors out there. Had you done what I do, and I do because I still do this. This is what I do. Take a pen, get a pen, write it down, word for word. This is what I write in my buyer agreement. And I've been writing this in my buyer agreement since 1996. Commissions are, this is not the part, but I just want to say commissions are not, what is the word I'm looking for, Kathy? It's not.
They're not set in stone.
It's not set in stone. Everybody decides what their commission is. So I am speaking about me, Nancy Alert, not even about RE/MAX, right? Because commissions is set based on each individual. So my commission, this is what I write in my buyer's agreement. My commission is 3%. This is your bill as the buyer. However, more often than not, the seller pays your bill. On the chance where the seller does not cover the entire 3% of my fee, the buyer is responsible for the difference. I.e., if the seller pays 2.5%, the buyer is responsible for 0.5% initial here. Right. That's what I write. That's what I discuss. They know that ahead of time that this is your bill as the buyer. However, because of circumstances, the seller most often pay all of it or most of it. But do know you're responsible for it or a part of it.
So what we're starting to see now, so there's a couple of things. So the big guy, Zillow, they are starting to, so a law was passed where now these internet companies that are online, they are showing the buyer's commission amount to the buyer online.
The buyer's
buyer can see now what that commission is going to be, or what that commission, well, they're going to see what part of the buyer's broker commission that the seller is paying. Right. So that they understand what part of it that they're going to be paying.
So that if they sign my buyer agreement, now they know, oh, they're paying 3%. I'm good. Yeah. I don't have to pay. And they're paying 2%. So I have to pay 1%. So they know up front, and it's not a surprise or oopsie at the settlement table. You have to pay 1%.
I think it's break time.
Okay, we will take a short break and then we will be back talking about the trends in real estate.
Okay.
Time. It has a different meaning in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It goes backwards, forwards, it stops. St. Croix is rooted in history. So much of it still remains untouched.
I remember running on these streets as a kid. This shop was right down there. It opened the same year I was born. This is where the original Crucian Hook was born. It's the symbol of these islands. And I wanted to have my hands in that very same history. I want to be able to pass it down to my family while still putting a new spin on it.
The U.S. Virgin Islands, we have an amazing culture that developed over time from all over the world.
St. John feels so untouched. Being underwater is like another world. There's no worries, there's no stress. I can just escape. This is my happy place. My passion for scuba diving came at just being fascinated with the water and wanting to be a mermaid. And this is the closest thing I can get to achieving mermaid status. Canadians just love being outdoorsy. We live for adventure, so we love anything hiking, being on the water, diving, snorkeling, and St. John has it all.
It's like some spirit is protecting the island and keeping them raw. The Makujumbi watches over the island. From up there, they keep the evil spirits away. The nightlife in St. Thomas is absolutely amazing. There's always something going on. Everyone comes together to dance and catch a vibe. We're always celebrating. We celebrate freedom, culture, the food, the smell, the music. It's always a celebration. The people here are probably the most priceless thing because they keep the culture going. There's so many different influences on these islands. Food from all kinds of countries coming together in new dishes. All of us came from somewhere, but all that we call this home. The VI is a new melting pot. This is where the past and the future comes together.
You know you are a hot one. We are lime, we are laugh, we are chat, we no chill, we are hot one. Temperature rise, beer vibes in ya, this a hot one. Link up, connect, bust a sweat when you're dead on the hot one. We gonna spice it up like fire.
We are back. We are back. You are watching and listening to the Alert Factor. I'm Nancy Allard, and I'm here with Kathy Baumbush. We're talking about trends in the real estate market, and we're just talking about who's going to be responsible in the future for a buyer broker fee, and so I know that the case was won by the seller in Michigan. So how long do you think that's going to trickle down to us in the DC metro area or everywhere?
So what we're seeing now is we're seeing the MLSs react to that. And one of the things that we saw today was that there's an MLS out in Washington State in the Seattle area that is now putting in their forms and putting in their MLS that the buyer's brokerage fee is going to come directly from the seller. Instead of going through the broker, it's going to come directly from the seller. And you might say, well, isn't that just a matter of semantics?
Right.
Because everything is always disclosed on the settlement statement, the HUD one. And so you see that, and it shows, it's always, our HUD ones in this area have always shown the split that the commission goes from this much goes to the buyer's broker,
And this much
company,
goes
and
to the
this much
listing
goes to the seller's broker's company. And so you've always seen that on the HUD one. So not really sure how that makes that much difference, but I guess just to make sure that it's kind of taking the onus off of the agents of having that conversation, and it's making it abundantly clear to the seller that that commission is coming from them. And again, like you and I both have always had these conversations, and we've had them this way the entire time we've been in the business. But we don't really quite understand why this is an issue.
Right.
But apparently it is, because as we're finding out, some sellers just don't know that they're actually paying the buyer's broker commission.
Do you think that is because, here's the thing, I don't know how you don't know, because I don't know how you don't know unless, again, you chose the wrong realtor and because you signed a form that you did not read, right? Because it's right there in the listing agreement. And I'm speaking about Maryland, Virginia, and DC. I don't know what the listing agreement looked like for Michigan, right? The listing agreement for Maryland, Virginia, and DC says what is the amount of commission you, the seller, is paying. But what I do believe is they know they're paying you X%. But a lot of the times they probably don't get into the minutia, which is just the next paragraph, of how that money is being spent.
Right. And let's face it, our forms are written in such a way that it's a lot of it is legalese. We know it and we understand it because we do this every day. Joe Seller isn't going to really understand that unless we explain it to them in a very basic kind of way. And so I know for a fact that Maryland's forms, they're a little different than Virginia's, of course. Each jurisdiction is different. But even I have to stop and read it again and make sure that I can explain it to the seller, because it really does get kind of convoluted. And when I start talking about, so this amount is going to come, and then this, and in the event that this doesn't, then blah, 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 it's like, what?
Right. And for the most part, I don't know who everybody's like, their sellers don't even look at that and don't care. Where they at? All my people, all my sellers, they're like, well, wait a minute, what does it say? Because you have 6% over here and then you have 3% over there. Does that mean I'm paying 9%? No, I'm breaking it down. Paying a total of 6%, but this is how it's going, right? And so I do explain each section to my clients. So I still don't understand how one would not know. And then also, here's my point. If you're, and I'm putting this number out there, I'm not saying this is what the commission is. I'm just putting a number. Let's say you were paying 6 apples. You're paying 6 apples to sell your property, because we can't be talking about commissions, right? If you're paying 6 apples to sell your property, what is it to you? How I share those apples you're giving to me to sell your property?
Well, since the seller is paying it, the seller is wondering,
what are you wondering? You're willing to pay 6 apples. You're willing to give me 6 apples, me, to sell your property.
Right. When you say it that way,
decide to give somebody else 2.5 apples.
Right. Everyone reacts differently. So some sellers might say, well, wait a minute, I want you as a moral thing to split it 50-50. So
and that's fine too. But for you to say, well, I don't want, you're willing to pay the 6 apples, but you don't want the 2.5 or the 3 apples to go to the buyer's agent is my situation.
Yeah.
But it's what it is, right? So
and I think that's what we're going to see in the future, is that the seller is saying, wait a minute, why isn't the buyer paying some of that? Because why am I paying all of that? Well, so I think that we're seeing and it's a very, very early, and it's too early to tell. I think we're going to be seeing a shift towards, this is just my Gene Dixon prediction, that we're going to start seeing a shift to where
you just dated yourself.
The sellers pay their agent and the buyers pay their agent, and it's completely split. And I think I think we're going to see that one day, maybe not soon, but maybe in the next, because it's taken 20 years for this to happen, 25 years.
Yeah.
I think we're going to start seeing where the buyer is going to be responsible for a lot more of that commission than they were in the past.
And here is who that's going to affect. The agents that was running around telling people they work for free.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you the one that was running around telling everybody you work for free. So you might have to do that now. Because if the seller is not paying, if the seller decided, I'm not even going to put it out there, I'm not even going to put a number out there, but if the seller is not paying it, then who's going to pay? Because if you did not have the confidence in what you do and what you bring to the table, I am an excellent agent. I bring a lot to the table, and I'm creative, and I'm excellent at putting deals together, making things happen, and negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
I do that for my clients. So I deserve what I deserve. And that's why I ask for it. But if you don't see your worth and you are not asking for it, you're going to have a problem, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's going down. It's going down.
I think we're going to see some changes in the MLS rules also, because the whole idea of an MLS is that we're sharing listings. Back in the days, even before I was an agent, and even right around the time that you came on, each individual office had a book of their listings. And so a person that was interested in buying a property had to go to each one of those offices to find
that was crazy
that were for sale, right?
I don't even know how that worked. That was just crazy. There's no way that, Kathy, there is no way that will work in this market. That was just before I enter. When I enter,
so what I think is going to happen is that MLS rules are going to have to change, because as part of being a member of the MLS, you're required to make an offer of compensation.
So
now, whether or not that offer,
like New York, you think we're going to be like? You think we're going to be like New York?
I think
New York
so.
doesn't have an MLS. It's all.
I mean, well, I think MLSs are. I think they're going to stick around. I think we're still going to have them, but I think that offer of compensation is going to be optional. I think that in the beginning, I think that sellers are still going to have to offer the buyer's agent something.
Right.
But
what is that something is the question.
It could be $1, but I think buyer's agents are going to have to change the way that they do business and stop glossing over the fact that the seller is paying part of this, and just stand up and say, look, I'm earning 3% on this. This is what I'm making. And yeah, sure, if the seller wants to give me some money, then I'll reduce the amount that you owe me by that amount.
Right.
But I think that if a seller wants their agent to put 0 for the seller's agent, then I think we're going to start to see initially that, maybe those houses won't be shown as often, but
and that's going to be a problem, because remember, back in the day, people were throwing the 2 and 2.5% commissions or what have you, less than they wanted, in the trash, and wasn't showing the buyer the list.
And that's where we had the problem, because that was not in the best interest of the buyer.
And if you're signing a buyer agreement, then you have to show everything. This is fascinating. I think I'm going to have you back so we can talk more about trends in real estate. Thank you very much. You always have such great information. I appreciate your time with us today. You have been watching and listening to The Alert Factor. I am Nancy Allert, and we're here every Wednesday from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Put your listings on realestatelistings.info. I'm Nancy Alert, getting it done.
Bye.